Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and Halo just changed. While they didn't announce a new game per se, they did everything else though. 343 Industries is dead, it's gone. It will now always be referred to in the past tense. Halo Studios is what is replacing it. And I'm sure you may have seen some memes of people going 343 Industries compared to Halo Studios, and they show pictures of like the same guy from different angles. Because it does kind of sound like that, but when you dig into the details a bit more, I think it's fair to say this is most likely a fresh start. 343 Industries have had significant turnover, even from the managerial positions. And that's holding true for Halo Studios, but that's not the only big announcement when it comes to this. They are ditching the Slip Space engine, which was their own in-house engine they had for Halo Infinite, and they're going to be utilizing Unreal Engine 5. For those who may not be aware or just know all this technical jargon when it comes to gaming, instead of having to work on their own engine to create Halo games, they can now just use Unreal Engine, which is widespread and popular. So the potential upside is that, hey, there's a lot of game developers out there who already know how to work with Unreal Engine 5. So the idea is that onboarding these new developers that you hire, they even use this as a bit of a catapult to announce they're looking for new hires. It should be easy to bring new people on board if they are already familiar with how to work with Unreal Engine 5. You no longer have to teach them how to use your own in-house engine, which has its roots from over 20 years ago. Even longer than that, actually. Now, we have heard honeyed words in regards to Halo before. I've been playing Halo since the days of Halo 3. I've been down this path before. And over the last 10 years or so, I am accustomed to being disappointed with Halo as an IP. But I love it so much that if you show me something good, I'm willing to hear you out with it. And when it comes to Halo Studios, I think on the whole, from what they said and what they showed, I'm rather optimistic. And I want to go into why. Now, they showcased this thing called Project Foundry. It's not a game, and it was originally intended just to be an in-house thing. Basically a test bed so they can just see what it would be like to make Halo in Unreal Engine 5. It was essentially a sandbox for them. Wasn't meant to be a full game or anything, just proof of concept most of all. But they decided to showcase some things from Project Foundry. So we have 3 different biomes. We have a zone that is eerily reminiscent to the Pacific Northwest, which is a standard biome we have seen in Halo time and time again. Halo Infinite was pretty much that biome. We had the Cold Lands, which is essentially, it's snow and ice and mountains, oh my. And we also had the Blightlands, which is essentially what a world overtaken or even a region overtaken by the flood is supposed to look like. I am really satisfied with the artistic direction they're going here. Obviously, we haven't seen any game yet, right? Obviously. And that'll be the most important thing to be shown down the line. But Halo is multifaceted, and I talked about this on stream yesterday, that Halo is one of those IPs where it's not just a matter of can you get 1 or 2 things right. Halo is an IP that needs to fire on all cylinders, because all those cylinders work with each other to create the overall feeling of Halo. You have to get the art direction right, you have to get the music right, you need the gameplay right, you need the movement right, you need the weapons to feel right, you need the enemies to feel right. You need all of these individual pieces of the puzzle to come together. And while we haven't seen all of them yet, we saw things like art direction, character design, weapon models, and I'm rather pleased with how everything looks. The Flood stuff looks absolutely gorgeous. It looks gnarly and infectious, and that's the feeling Flood is supposed to have. And I love how it's like creeping up the Forerunner structure that we see throughout these other presentations of Project Foundry. You go to the cold zone, whatever they wanted to call this thing, the snow place, and they take that location as a way to showcase what different shaders, what different lighting effects you can have, fog intensity, night and day. Unreal Engine is known to produce beautiful games. Has a bit of an issue, especially with Unreal Engine 5, to produce good games a lot of the time, but we have had good games on Unreal Engine 5. It's just a lot of people try and piggyback back off how beautiful you can make your game look, and the gameplay suffers. Time will tell the tale as to whether or not that is the case for Halo in the future. However, if you want an example of a great game on Unreal Engine 5, Black Myth Wukong, arguably the game of the year for 2024. For me, there were a couple elements specifically that instilled a lot of optimism and hope for me, that made me feel, oh, okay, you understand at least the artistic direction of Halo. That was the design of the Elite. That was the big one for me. Not even Master Chief, because Master Chief looks gorgeous. I'll get into him in a minute, but I want to focus in on the Elite. Good God, did they nail it. They don't look like some grotesque monstrosity like 343 was notorious for in things like Halo 4 and Halo 5, where they just didn't look like elites. This guy looks sleek, slim. The metal on him looks perfect. The colors pop. It's great. I'm not that big of a fan of the energy sword. That was like my one critique throughout this entire presentation, was I wasn't sold on the energy sword, though the hilt for it looks clean. It looks crispy. I love the lighting. And I honestly think I'll just grow to like the energy sword when I see more in movement instead of just still static images. I kind of like the idea of the energy sword being this still thing of plasma instead of the kind of wavy electrical effect it has going here. But move aside, let the king come through. Master Chief, good God, yes, 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 more yes. I went through mood swings with the Master Chief design here. I initially really liked it, then I'm like, you know what? I don't know how I feel about this. Something feels off about it. Might be the texture of the metal, might be the color, something feels wrong about it. And then I'm like, nah, this looks good. It could have just been some part of my subconscious predisposed to be pessimistic when it comes to modern Halo, but I do think that Master Chief looks pretty damn good. And yeah, it is the Master Chief design from Combat Evolved, which has been a theorized and talked about remake for a little bit now, and I think this presentation to me really drives home the idea that I think we are going to get a Combat Evolved remake. They never talked about it. They didn't announce it. However, I had the eagle eye on stream when we were watching A New Dawn trailer they made for this whole announcement. Link in the description down below. If you zoom in on some of the shots where they're showcasing them editing the game in the engine, or Project Foundry specifically, some of the nomenclature that they use, namely the file names for certain items, have CE in them. CE being the abbreviation for Combat Evolved. It could mean nothing. It could just be, hey, we wanted to showcase something familiar. It's the Combat Evolved design clearly, so we just named it that. It could mean nothing. It could also be, hey, technically we made this for Project Foundry, but if we're going to do a Combat Evolved remake, because they said they had multiple new titles in development, heck, even the description of that video says with multiple Unreal-powered projects in development, to me, it makes sense that say, hey, we made this for Project Foundry as a proof of concept. I think it's a good proof. Now let's just lift it and put it in a Combat Evolved remake. That makes sense to me. The way they talked about this whole transition made it feel as if they want to be able to pump out Halo games far more consistently and frequently. And that to me is another great direction change. These giant droughts of content that we've had over the last 10 years, ever since Halo 5, where we had a massive drought until Halo Infinite, and now we've just had another massive drought, that is not Halo. I'm a firm believer that Halo does not work as a modern live service game that is supposed to go on for 10 years, as was the intent of Halo Infinite. It doesn't work. Halo relies on all cylinders. It's not just any one thing. You need a good-ass campaign. You need a good-ass multiplayer. You need a good-ass Forge mode. You need good-ass cooperative play. You need good-ass customization, good-ass progression. You need all of these things. Halo's not any one individual thing. It's not just a glorified storefront to push out new cosmetics every month or whatever. You need to nail the identity of Halo, and I think this could just be cope on my part. I'm hoping that's the direction they're taking, because if you're announcing multiple new titles, I think it's highly unlikely that the intent for one of those titles is to be this like throughput live service game for another 10 years. If we can go back to the original direction of Halo, which is a game meant to be updated for about 3 to 4 years and then we move on to a new title, I think that'd be a far far more healthy direction for Halo. Give us those smaller titles, give us spin-offs. Halo 3 ODST was amazing. Halo Wars is really cool. Do they need to have the widespread market appeal of mainline Halo? Not necessarily, but they give you the idea of what this IP can do. They allow you to test new things, draw new people, and just be excited about the IP. Halo is intrinsic to Xbox, and I think they forgot about that for the longest time. However, I was never the type of guy to only blame 343 for the woes of Halo, because 343 had bosses to answer to in Xbox. I'm not saying that they deserve all the blame, and that 343 is completely alleviated of any fault, but I'm saying this pie chart is more than one slice. We have seen the success of games like Space Marine 2. We have seen how much anticipation the roadmap for that game has built. Halo should have the same treatment, because it used to be that. It used to be the title that knew what it was, provided a wealth of different ways to play and interface with Halo, and you always had something to look forward to. They say a lot of right stuff. In the Xbox Wire interview, link in the description down below, in the new Dawn trailer, they say a lot of the right stuff, but we have been burnt before. Halo Infinite was promised to be a new beginning. We saw how wildly inaccurate the marketing for Halo 5 was. We were promised a lot of good with Halo 4 as well. We have been down this road before, so if people are pessimistic and reluctant to build up any wellspring of optimism or hope for Halo, I cannot blame them. I physically cannot. I can't fault them. I can't say just give them a chance. No, trust is earned, and they've earned the opposite. And I plan to make a post-mortem about 343 Industries and their handling of Halo in a future video. So if you want to see that, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to this channel down below. But I think the best thing they could have announced wasn't even that they're moving to Unreal. It wasn't even Project Foundry. It wasn't any of these screenshots. It was simply saying we have multiple Halo titles in development. We're working on multiple different projects. We don't need open world Halo. We simply need Halo. It can't just be a pale imitation of what came before, but you have to understand what made it successful all those years ago. And I don't think the open world formula necessarily lends itself to the Halo formula. Or at least the way they did it in Infinite, I don't think panned out correctly. When it concerns, say, the campaign, the beauty and the replayability of a Halo game stems from the idea that all of these engagements are handcrafted. Each fight feels unique to that difficulty, but the game provides you the weapon sandbox that you will need for that fight. You can prioritize certain weapons, and with proper ammo conservation or just careful management, you can retain those weapons, but sometimes you will feel the need to swap things out. And if a moment is big and bombastic, they give you access to things like vehicles or rocket launchers or Spartan lasers. They give you what is needed for that moment, and sometimes when you're down on your luck, all you can find is a spiker. Is it the best weapon in the game? No. Should it be? No. Because sometimes the feeling of being able to clutch out that victory with nothing more than a spiker, because that's all you could find, adds to the feeling of Halo. And the idea of the fob, in my opinion, in Halo Infinite is a cool idea, but the problem is it undermines that element of Halo, because you can simply get whatever you want. You can simply have the most broken, overpowered weapon, so it takes away from that design that Halo was known for, even subconsciously. When you always have access to the most powerful weapons, they no longer feel like power weapons, they feel just like weapons. And bear in mind, I like Halo Infinite. It's not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but I did think it was a good step in the right direction compared to Halo 5. It did a lot of good. I thought the gameplay loop of Infinite was really fun. It just had some pitfalls. And if we can shore those things up moving to Unreal Engine 5, we have more frequent title updates, more frequent game releases. Truly take player feedback into account. And if you can do that more frequently, then I think that's a far more healthy direction. But I don't think they earned optimism or anything like that. We need to see actual gameplay from an actual title. And I think, I'm not gonna be like the only guy who has this theory, by the way, because I think it's kind of obvious that the first thing they're gonna put out for this new chapter, as they want to call it for Halo, will be Combat Evolved Remake. That makes the most sense to me. Anniversary sucked ass. It's a good throwback. It's an easy PR victory. gameplay. It's a known entity. You don't have to make up any new concepts for a Combat Evolved remake. You just have to do Combat Evolved in Unreal Engine 5. Showcase a new artistic direction. Showcase how the gameplay feels. Like I said before, if you look and you actually analyze the trailer they put out for A New Dawn, there's various things that have CE in the name, in the files. A lot of the environments they showed off would be things you would expect to see in Combat Evolved. The Pacific Northwest, the frozen maps, and flood maps. Like, these are things, these are aesthetics you expect to see in Combat Evolved, not one for one, but these are things you would come to expect. You have Master Chief in the Combat Evolved armor. You have the Combat Evolved pistol. We saw coveted Banshees that were blue. We saw blue elites. These are things you come to expect from Combat Evolved. We have to wait for gameplay. 1000%, you will not hear me, like, argue with you on that. We need actual gameplay. We need an actual gameplay announcement. Heck, we just need a game announcement to begin with. Then we need to see actual gameplay, and then we can say, okay, is this actually the new direction we think they're going, that we're hoping they're going, or will it be more of the same? They have a lot of bad faith that they need to fix and to turn into good faith. I don't think that's an overnight process. It requires consistency. It requires not even a good game. It requires excellence. I think they showed seeds of excellence here. There's a lot of things that they said the right thing for, and they showcased a lot of good things, especially in regards to art direction, in my opinion. You won't be able to please everyone. Absolutely. But good God, do I just want to be excited about Halo again. I no longer want to look back on Halo and say that all that remains is dust and echoes. I don't want the fight to be finished. Like the most popular trailer for Halo 3, I simply want to believe. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and help support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe. Have a great day. I'm Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming. Until we meet again.